Hello and welcome to Fix My City on Asake Online. My name is Leslie Moyo. In today's edition of the program, we give you highlights of the National Residents Summit, which was held here in the city of Bulawayo, which was convened by the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association in partnership with other stakeholders. The conference was being held under the theme Rethinking WASH Sector Financing in the context of devolution, where the stakeholders were mainly reflecting on the implementation of devolution as contained in the country's statutes. I do hope that you will gain more insight on the implementation of devolution in the context of local governance.
Local government issues are not the preserve of Ministry of Local Government, because there are other countries that have no ministry called Ministry of Local Government. You go to South Africa, there's cooperative governance and traditional authority. So our role as the Association of Rural District Councils is to bridge the gap between the various players in local government and the local authorities as embodiment of local government. Because when we talk of local government, what comes to us first are the local authorities, which we see on a day-to-day basis, performing the function of being service providers and development planning. But they are not doing it for themselves. They are doing it on behalf of all the stakeholders that are involved in local government, including yourselves as a residents association. You have a stake in local government issues, including central government, not the Ministry of Local Government. Central government as a whole, it is a stake in local governance. Private sector, it is a stake in local governance. Civil society organizations, NGOs, international organizations, they have a stake in local governance. So the claim of exclusive validity or hegemony on one party on issues of local governance is null and void. And on that aspect, I agree with the Residents Association to say, we are together in this local governance issue. And since we are together, we all have a role to play. But why I accepted to come here when I was invited is because I want residents associations to be vital links in local governance and not missing links. Are we together? I want residents associations, local government associations, everyone to be a vital link in local governance in Zimbabwe and not a missing link. Because local authorities themselves, during the Gono era at the RPZ, when he was almost running the government that time, we were labeled, local authorities were labeled as missing links in terms of national development. And we used to argue, no, we are vital links. It's only that you are misplacing us. You are misdirecting us. So in that regard, there were a lot of strategies, orientation programs, revitalization, whatever, turnaround strategies. We turned around and faced where we were before we turned around. And the issues were still the same. Residents Association have held councils to account, and I cherish the knowledge, the power, the enthusiasm, and all issues that Residents Association are demanding from local authorities. But my appeal to you is, let that knowledge, let that power, let that enthusiasm, let that passion be shared amicably with the local authorities so that we improve on them. The same passion which we have for local authorities as local government association should match the same expectations you as residents have, so that we build a local government system that you are proud of as a government, as a country. Right now, the contestation of devolution is on the power dynamics. To say central government does not want to relinquish powers to local authorities. Because by definition, devolution is about the transfer of powers, responsibilities, and the resources to lower tiers of government. But the three tiers, they are all part of government of Zimbabwe in a unitary state mechanism. Central government expects a lot from local authorities. This is why they've given them the mandates to do this, do that, but they've retained the power, they've retained the resources. What shall we do? So that in any way, they are making local authorities and residents to fight. And yet we are all fishing from the same turf. Councillors are elected from the residents. Residents association leaders are elected by the residents. So where is the missing link? So this is why I came here, so that I appreciate where you guys, with your passion, with your knowledge, are coming from, so that we blend with what we bring as local government associations. Because what we want to do as a local government association is to enhance the status of local authorities so that they are able to deliver on their mandates, to speak about local government issues with one voice. And that one voice should also be representative of residents associations, central government, civic society, and everyone. So local government associations, they are not just there for local authorities. They are there to make sure that local government speaks with one voice. And this is why I want also to enlist a residents association to be part of that voice, so that we speak with one voice. I think that was necessary to see the context why I accepted to come here. So like what I said, our association, ARDCZ, Zimbabwe is an unfortunate, it has two local government associations. Most countries have one local government association. Go to South Africa, Sauga, go to Botswana, Bala, go to Namibia, Alan, go to Zambia, Zambia local government association, go to any country, it's one local government association. So I don't know, maybe a research, is it good for a country to have two local government associations divided on whether it's urban or rural? Because to me, local government is a local government. It is no language of being rural or urban, but it is. So we are the Association of Rural District Councils of Zimbabwe, established in 1993. After, at the end of the amalgamation process, he alluded to the 1988 Rural District Councils Act, which was finalized in 1993 and amended in 1996. So at the end of the amalgamation process, the amalgamation process was, we had the rural councils, those former white-dominated farmers with their own local authority. It was called a rural council, well-funded, whatever the equipment. And then the district councils, where we had our traditional leaders and our communal lands, whatever. So at the end of 1993, they came together at the end of the amalgamation to form rural district councils as we know them today. So rural district councils are a product of district councils and former rural councils. So I've already said our mandate to represent, to promote and protect the interests of rural local authorities. Then I'll say a little bit about devolution of powers and responsibility. Under the NDS-1, Vision 2030 is envisaged to be achieved through devolution and decentralization, where citizens actively participate in development planning and implementation within the areas of jurisdiction as enshrined in the national constitution. Yes, I highlighted it, how our citizens are supposed to participate, how the powers are supposed and the resources are supposed to pay between the center and the local. Devolution entails the transfer of governmental powers, responsibilities, and resources from central government to provincial, metropolitan councils, and local authorities, albeit within a unitary state framework, in order to enable lower tiers to govern to deliver on their mandate. The current state of affairs is that more responsibility have been given to local authorities, yet with very limited powers and resources. The result is that local authorities are burdened with the numerous unfunded mandates, while powers and resources remain heavily centralized under central government. Consequently, local authorities have limited autonomy to govern on their own initiative the local affairs of the people within the areas for which they were created in terms of the constitution. As a result, local authorities fail to deliver on their mandates due to financial imbalances and capacity constraints, resulting in inadequate funding for operations. Erosion of local authorities' budgets caused by inflationary pressures. Debt overhang within local authorities that prevents them from accessing international capital or any form of local borrowing. Ineffective role delineation structures. The Devolution Acts, the devolution under the Constitution is very clear what should be done to local authorities, but there are no enabling legislation to that effect. Given the above scenario, funding for water, sanitation, and hygiene, which we call WASH, becomes a nightmare. So this is why I gave that background. Now we come to the issues of when we talk about financing for WASH. This is the background. Vision 2030 cannot be realized without proper WASH infrastructure and systems. We might talk of Vision 2030, yes. I'm talking the Vision 2030 in terms of NDS 1 and not the other Vision 2030. So don't quote me in that aspect. So I'm not saying it cannot be achieved without WASH. I'm talking to the devolution, the Vision 2030, which is in our 5-year development plans. Because Vision 2030 is not about figures. It's not about people will be earning over slightly 4,500 per annum, is whatever net income per capita. Those are figures. It is about when you alight at the airport, Robert Mugabe Airport, and you start entering Harare, and you start meeting people. It should simply tell you, these people are now in an upper middle income society. You don't have to be told. You just see yourself. Walk to any city, look at the infrastructure, go to the public ranks, bus terminus, go to their social amenities, football pitches, whatever. It tells a story. You say, now we are in a real upper middle income society. So it's not about everyone will be getting 8,000 from where? It's about what we will be seeing on the ground, not flowing sewer, not inadequate water supplies in the homes. So once we do not give due credence to WASH issues, then the 2030 as a vision which we are talking about becomes a nightmare. So it is incumbent upon the government, local authorities, and every citizen to demand that we have proper WASH infrastructure and systems. Currently, if you just Google what water, sanitation, and hygiene coverage in rural areas remains highly uncertificated for the attainment vision 2030. As of 2019, overall coverage stood at 77.1%. And that of that, 97.3 was for urban areas and 67.9 was for rural. Again, these are just figures. Can you say in Harare, water coverage is 97%? Can you say in our rural areas, water coverage is 69%? So it's about figures. It's about what you see, what you feel, what you observe. It should tell you where we are. So not mere perceptions, but real issues. Sanitation coverage was recorded at 36% in 2020, while hygiene remained very low at 42%. 56% urban and 36% rural. I might agree with that sanitation. At Sati, you can see, it can tell its own story. And so what are the challenges? Lack of investment in infrastructure in both urban and rural areas. Mayor Coulter talked of deteriorating, dilapidated, aged, archaic infrastructure, which was meant for the 1940s. And now we are in 2025. The population has since doubled. I remember 1969. When I say I remember, I don't mean I was born in 1969. It's a figure which, when we're reading in our geography, Rhodesia had a population of 5 million people. And in New York City alone by then had double that population. And now Zimbabwe has how many people? And Harare on its own, nearly 3 million. And the infrastructure, the Matapi flats, the whatever was meant for maybe 100,000 to 200,000 people. So we need to reinvest in infrastructure. And that is not money, tax shop money, which we are talking about. We are talking of real money, real public sector investment program, real official development assistance, real international capital, which is cheap and paid over many years. Lack of maintenance of aging and dilapidated infrastructure, decline in official assistance for WASH programs. So this is the elephant in the room. No, lack of investment. In terms of NDS1 initiatives towards WASH programs, Zimbabwe intends to, that was what they said in NDS1, what we said. Implement a national campaign to eliminate open defecation and diarrheal diseases. How? It's not clear. Enforce existing regulations and empower communities to effectively manage WASH. By communities, whom do you mean? It's you people. How are we empowered to do that? C, enhance WASH advocacy and promotion and harmonize WASH sector statute and policy frameworks. Adopt and institutionalize a pooled funding mechanism for WASH. Finalize and implement the Zimbabwe National Water Resources Master Plan 2020 to 2040. What is the current scenario? Privatization of WASH management while saving other commercial aspects such as power generation does not benefit local authorities significantly. That's my personal opinion now. What do you mean when we talk of privatization? One first scenario is bringing private sector into WASH funding. 2, take over of WASH services by private sector. Those are the 2 scenarios. Why is it difficult to bring private sector funding into WASH services? Why is it difficult? Do we have a business case from water or WASH services? Is there a business case there? Because if you go into other countries, that can be done by private sector, but they have to recoup. Private sector is interested in profits. If they come, they put their funding into the water, are they going to recoup their funding? Right now is residents. Whenever council comes out with the budget for water, to say so much per month in terms of rates, we all cry. And it's not our fault, because we've limited disposable income. But without real funding, no serious business person will find reason to go into WASH sector to fund, because there's no business case out of there. The only option remaining would be for the government to fund that sector and expect, to recoup, or not even to recoup, but as a gesture of goodwill towards their people. Because water is a right. WASH services are a right. So the government is to take stock of that. So this is my thinking. This is why we do not have. So the only option they have, because of those people who were told they are tenderpreneurs, they have no money, they whatever, they are just given WASH services by the public to take over, and then they make money from it, and nothing develops again from there. So that's a dilemma we have. To me, waste management remains a core municipal function. WASH management, it remains a core municipal function. We cannot take it away from local authorities, because that is the reason why they are there. Even before the talk of devolution in the new constitution, local authorities, be it rural or urban, had over 60 powers, 64 powers for road state councils, 57 powers, not functions, powers. And one of the powers was to make sure that they provide the water. and they all powers necessary to do so in terms of legislation. So where did we go wrong if the powers are there? And now with the devolution coming again to give more powers, some have said instead of that devolution now taking place, we are seeing more centralization, and hence government, local authority powers are being usurped and given to individuals. And instead, councils should be capacitated both technically and financially. If your son pambotaura kuti mwana akura wamupamusha pako apa mukadzi uyu aroora wane musha wako akatadza kuita zvaanofanira kuita sababa munomutorera musha wacho. Handisei vana sekuru vana tete garai pasi nezvanzi muone kuti momubatsira sei. Saka local authorities ayo akataura kuti aita ichi nekuti vachema kuti hatina zvakati. Why take the functions away from them? Let us capacitate them financially and technically and demand accountability at the end of the day. They have a lot of unfunded mandates which come to local authorities. Itachakat, do this, but there's no funding. We won't go deep into that because I'm not a politician, by the way. But every animal, every human being is a political animal to some certain extent. So it is pointless to assign mandate to another actor and still expect local authorities to pay for the services. Instead, local authorities should be provided with the resources to procure refuse compactors themselves so that they deliver their services directly rather than central government procuring refuse compactors, delivering the service to local authorities, and then expecting the councils who have no resources to reimburse government for the service. So there are a lot of scenarios. Clearly, this arrangement undermines the principle of devolution. So under devolution, we envisage a situation where that local solutions about financing WASH services are determined by the people at the local level. By the way, local authorities do not plan for the people. They plan with the people. This they expect. This is what it should be. They should not plan for you. They should plan with you. They should plan with us. So once the local authorities started to say, that is something amiss, because it should be us. That's the principle of devolution. We plan together, act together, fail together, or succeed together. But if you plan on your own and say, we have done this for you, if you fail, you failed on your own. We are not failures. So that should be the principle. So going forward, I expect local government associations and residents association to speak with one voice on the need to capacitate local authorities. Let's capacitate them in whatever way, financially, technically, knowledge. I've heard a lot of sound, knowledgeable issues coming up from residents. Why don't we go with that to local authorities? In a diplomatic way. If you approach someone and you try to indicate that you know better than him, obviously you develop tentacles. Let's go with them. Let's redefine the relationship. Here we're talking of redefining, rethinking investment. Let's also rethink about how we relate with our local authorities. We might perceive that they do not want to hear from us, but they might also have a negative perception about residents association. They might also have negative perceptions about local government association. So let's rethink and find each other as a local government sector. Plan together with local and provide informed advice accordingly. Develop good working relationships between local authorities and residents association. The resident is central in this equation. Whatever the local authority does, it is presumed that they have done it with the residents and therefore it's for the good of the residents. Develop and foster positive perception towards each other by supporting and complement one another. Local government association should envisage a good working relationship with the residents association, since the ultimate goal is to achieve efficient, modern, and affordable service delivery. So those are my remarks, and I've given my thoughts on WASH financing and the role that the private sector should play. But I think let's capacitate our local authorities to do that municipal function of providing WASH services, so that as we march into Vision 2030, and by the way, it's not very far now. This 25, it's only 5 years to come. We are all self-evident that we are indeed in an upper income middle society. I thank you.
First thing that we need to do is to disabuse ourselves from this notion that in Zimbabwe there is a devolution. In Zimbabwe there is no devolution. What is there is that in the constitution there is a word devolution. So some of us, when we started our activism in civil society, our entry point was the campaign for this devolution. Actually, at first it was federal. I think Guzura charged that. We were actually campaigning for federalism. Then we toned it down and say we want a devolution of power. But the challenge that we have, or the challenge in Zimbabwe about devolution of power, is the characterization of devolution. I think Guzura also touched that. When you talk about devolution, it is coming from Matebeleland. It's a Matebeleland issue. So that is the challenge. So to start with, when we're now writing the constitution, from the progressive forces, the opposition parties and civil society, so we started negotiating this devolution of power within the progressive forces, because our colleagues from the northern region, they did not understand, because it is a Matebeleland issue. But because strategically they need the Matebeleland to be co-opted, so it has to be negotiated. So the devolution issue was negotiated starting from the opposition. So it was toned down. When now we're moving to the ruling elite, the ruling party, which was very clear that they don't want the devolution, already it was watered down, and the then ruling party, it further watered down the devolution. So what we have in the constitution is not devolution. The least maybe you can say is a decentralization, not devolution, no. Because the devolution, we are talking about devolution of political power. You cannot tell me that there's a devolution when you have got a minister who is appointed from the central authority. When you have got a minister who does not have a budget, when you have got a minister who does not have a team to administrate the province, so there's no devolution in Zimbabwe. What we thought, what we were thinking is a South African model, where you have got a premier who is elected by the locals, and he has got a team and they've got a budget. They are running. So the devolution is about devolution of power, is about revenue, it's about the resources. But Colter talked about the devolution fund. No, that's not devolution. So I think I wanted to point out that it's better to remove that mind that we have got a devolution. Because if we had a devolution, the local authority should be talking about the provisional government. But here, the local authorities, they are talking about their interaction with the central government. But under the devolution, there is a strong provincial government that interacts with the local authority. Thank you.
I was thinking the issue of, as an advocacy issue, the issue of provincial councils. We elected provincial councils meant for devolution and so forth, but up to now, you find it hasn't been implemented. So I think there are very clear issues which are in the constitution, and there is need to make a follow-up. Then I think also let's utilize community structures which are already existent in the community. We have, like in our case, we have village development communities, ward development communities, water point committees, and so forth. What is lacking to those people is the knowledge and skills. I really liked the presentation by Tobias. I think if we can simplify a manual which really articulates on those issues of devolution from what it is, the history, where we are, the challenges and so forth, so that this issue does not remain at this elite level. It must also be discussed in the community. Thank you.
On the other issue, I just think Uguti, if you are talking of devolution, currently, as we are speaking in Zimbabwe, I don't think the problem is about devolution, but the problem is about the leaders that we have as a nation. There is one man who always say, if you elect a fool, you will have an elected fool. Someone being elected does not mean that he's going to be wise, while he's a fool. He will just remain a fool who has been elected. So we have stupid and foolish leaders as a nation. Therefore, we might have devolution, and that devolution, if it is being spearheaded by fools, it won't yield any positive results. So I think the problem that we are having is the characters that we have, that we call leaders in our nation. That is the number one problem. And also, Doctor touched on the issue of bringing private sector into WASH service funding. If there is money that the government is ready to give to someone who's coming without any cent, why can't they take that money and give it to the local authorities? Yet they want to give it to someone. They will tell you maybe local authorities, they are corrupt and so forth. That's why we are bringing a private sector, someone whom we trust as the government. We no longer trust our own local authorities, but we now trust someone else who comes and receive the funding that is supposed to go to the local authorities. So somehow, as resident associations, we are supposed to unite and fight. I just think us being rhetoric and coming here and complaining, saying government is not doing this, and we are also not doing nothing. We come here and talk and come up with objectives. Next year you will come again and say, last year we agreed on this and this and this. Nothing again. So I think we need to act on our words, unite and fight the system. Thank you.
Come here and make resolutions and do nothing about them. The other thing about us RAs is that we have limited ourselves most at local authority level, forgetting that the undoing is the government. So we need to lift up our heads and look above the local authorities, because I think the problem which we are having is the government that makes the local authorities fail to function properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one of the speakers mentioned issue of mismanagement of devolution funds, which makes it very difficult maybe for the government to authorize or to sign the local authority to use the funds that are from the central government. But my other question is, was there any fund that was sent by the national government that makes it easier for them to say local authorities mismanaging? So that becomes an assumption. Then the other thing that I've observed, the national government is sending or is actually giving local authority monies which are having strings attached, which doesn't give the local authority mandate to plan. So it is like sending the money for a certain purpose. And we cannot say it is for development. Because if it is for development, each and every local authority has got its own challenges. And they also have their own plans, which are supposed to be solved basically basing on revenue that is coming from the national government. But that is not functioning. It's like in government, a producer imali eya ku local authority, at the same time iphinde isebenzise. So iyazibhadalela into abazifunayo via a local authority. And we are saying there is a provincial committee. That provincial committee, constitutionally, it has to be there. But with the current situation, it's a committee that is not functioning at all. Sometimes if we can make a research and to find out whether these provincial committees are there, you find that you will find maybe one person. The rest they don't even know their members. So that's why we have. Then my last contribution is to say, as we have noticed that as our residents, I think it is very important. I think one of the doctors mentioned something to say it is the power is in our hands to bring. Yes, we might fail to come up with the solution or to push the government maybe to say implement this according to our constitution. But once the voice has said and is heard, somehow 50% of what they're doing is going to be changed. Thank you.
We seem to know where the problem is. We know where the problem is. But what we need now is to come up with a solution. And I've actually checked that you realize that we can have we can maybe branch our solution into two segments, the political solution and then the administrative solution. So maybe I'm proposing, Director of Ceremonies, that we come up with a way forward. Because we all know, no matter how much we might try to dress devolution, it's not devolution per se, like he said. It's things that are coming from the top. Like what my brother said, they follow up. Let's look at how DDF collapsed. It's the same thing that was happening. It's a centralized a system that follows up on resources that has been allocated and take them away. And now at the end of the day, we are then forced to fight each other. And they say maybe local authorities are not performing, councillors are not performing, but their hands are tied. So maybe I propose that we come up with one, a political solution, two, an administrative solution to these challenges.
We've talked about privatization for quite some time. I think this privatization is something not in the constitution. It's like something coming from the central government. So we really need to fight it as residents. Because we seem to be in agreement that privatization only comes maybe to siphon money out of the local authorities. That's what we've observed so far. So I think as a residents association, we need to work in unison to attack this thing called privatization. For example, we may do those petitions, but if we need to do those in unison, like if every one of us here, we petition the parliament to say no to privatization, I think one day they will hear us. The issue of WASH services and devolution, this is, I think WASH services is about right to life. If you talk about water, it's right to life. So we need to work seriously on that one to say, if we are dealing with anything to do with our health, with our water, no to privatization. We may use our experiences with these other partnerships, which are coming from the central government, like the Geopomona. We've seen that there are no results. The illegal dumping sites are continuing to rise. When they started, it was only presentation. They would bring their vehicles to the local community just for people to see. But we actually see that there are no results. So I think, in short, we should concentrate more on working for things that we work together as a resident association, like the petition of the parliament that I've just said. Thank you.
So this is a question. From what I have been observing, everything is about the central power taking over. Everything has been groomed and it has always been central. Central power has been a whole in every discussion that has been made here. Central power is this and central power is that. So this is a question that I'm trying to ask. Is it possible to amend the Urban Castles Act just to give power, enough power for the local authorities to do their job?
Push for devolved governance in Zimbabwe. I think that when you have that political lens, we would have clarity on whether devolution will be implemented before achieving the 2030 political vision for the president. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll comment on the Vision 2030, which we are working through NDS 1, NDS 2, and the TSP as the precursor to that one. There are preconditions that were set in order for us to achieve Vision 2030. And it was going to be achieved through, first of all, the TSP, the Transitional Stabilization Program, which tried to manage the economy, manage the interest rates, instill more trust in the economy. And I think to some extent, something was done in that regard. Then the NDS 1, which we are concluding this year, I think with its 14 thematic areas, of which devolution is one of them. WASH is part of it, under health and well-being and various other thematic issues. And now we are moving to NDS 2 with the 10 thematic areas. NDS 1 at 14, NDS 2 is 10. And the devolution in regional development through devolution is still a thematic area in that. So that means there are more issues that should be articulated in terms of the devolution which we want. Section 7 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe says there must be public awareness about the Constitution. Right now, if I'm to ask someone to give me one provision in the Constitution, most of us will stammer, because there hasn't been much public awareness about the Constitution. It's provided, and that it be translated into the 16 official languages and what have you. So we still have a lot to do in terms of dissecting the devolution which you want. Devolution is an extreme form of decentralization. We have delegation under decentralization, with deconcentration, delegation, then devolution, and then you can. Devolution is between the three tiers of government, sharing the powers. So devolution, that's the extreme, that we share the powers, the transfer governmental powers, responsibilities and resources to lower tiers of government, that is provincial councils and local authorities. That's devolution. It's about those three tiers of government. Then decentralization is what the ministries are doing. Registrar General in Harare, then provincial registrars, district registrars, making the services, government services, available to the people wherever they are. That's decentralization. So it is between government functions finding themselves into the villages and whatever, in the spirit of leaving no one and no place behind. That's decentralization. So decentralization is about government powers and whatever. It also goes about delegation. Before the Constitution, this way someone was saying, do we have devolution in Zimbabwe? Yes. If you go to our government, they emphasize on economic devolution and not political devolution. This is what they're talking about. I'm part of the thematic committee on devolution and whatever. As a government, they emphasize on economic devolution. I don't know whether that is the spirit as enunciated in the Constitution? Does this specify, or is it simply specified that there shall be local authorities as defined in terms of legislation and what have you? So, but we cannot throw the baby with the bathwater when we say there's no devolution in Zimbabwe. The mere existence of local authorities is a testimony of devolution, because they are there. They are functioning, but not in the way we would like them to function. We want them to have more powers, more resources, and whatever. But the mere existence of local authority is testimony to say there's devolution in Zimbabwe. The mere fact that local government is now in the Constitution, which was not in the previous Constitution. Local government existed only by an act of parliament, the Rural District Councils Act or the Urban Councils Act. But now, no one can wish local authorities away because it's a constitutional matter. The Constitution says there shall be rural councils by whatever name, whatever in terms of what is provided. There shall be urban councils to perform in whatever, manage the affairs of people in the urban areas. It's now there in the Constitution. So it's just like any other power. It's derived from the people. People went to the referendum to say local authorities want them in the Constitution. But prior to that, if you look at the Rural District Councils Act, maybe it mentions the minister about 30 or 40 times in terms of his powers. So someone was saying we need to amend the acts. In order to give due credence to the devolution issue, we cannot do that outside the proper amendment or alignment of our local government laws with the Constitution. I think Ms. Guzura highlighted that. I was part of the Ministerial Task Force on Legislation. We did the Rural District Councils Act, the Provincial Councils and Metropolitan Councils Bill. We did the Urban Councils Act. It is now second time when we are doing those acts, but somehow, because devolution is about power dynamics. You cannot just give away. Oh, nema simba osababa nakati ngatite devolution. Dipana pa mdara ndi ngoti mari unongo ya payslip maya vaioni isusu vana tongonzi dora. Can you reform as a father? But kana pakaiswa mtemo, ultimately you'll be called to account. So it's a process. We cannot expect it overnight, but though one of the laws that is akatangwa kuitwa ma local government laws, because those there is maximum respect for devolution. Though idea akatanga. Right now we've done 87% of all other laws, and yet the most critical ones, the urban councils, the road councils, are still not done. It's the second time again around doing the same acts. They were aligned, but maybe somehow some people were not happy with them. So there's something that being done in terms of legislation. So I also wanted to manage mismanagement of devolution funds by local authorities. The funding, in terms of Section 301 of the Constitution, the at least 5% to local authorities was only realized in 2019. That is where we had almost 100% disbursement. From 2020 up to now, we've realized declined disbursement of funds to local authorities. Up to last year, maybe we received about 7% last year alone. This year, there hasn't been much received in terms of devolution due to competing government priorities or alternatives. So to say local authorities are mismanaging funds, I think that's rather far-fetched, because how can you mismanage something which you don't have? So that one, I think, let's give them what is supposed to be given to them, then we hold them accountable. After all, I've said they should plan with you and not plan for you. The whole principle about devolution is that people should participate in national development planning, especially those issues that affect them.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope you gained some valuable insights when it comes to the implementation of devolution. If you have any service delivery challenges in your area, do get in touch with us, and you can follow us on our various social media platforms at site ZW. Let's meet again in the next edition of Fix My City. My name is Leslie Moyo.